Welcome to TechRaptor. My name's Ashley, and today we're interviewing Anjali Bhimani, actor and author, well known for her appearances on Critical Role as well as her charity campaign, Puppy Roll. Today we're speaking about Sunderfolk, the TTRPG video game bridge looking to reinvent game night for multiple people who may be interested in TTRPGs but not exactly have the time or the energy to learn the full system. We speak to her about her experiences voicing multiple characters across the project, as well as what it's like, for those that may be interested in playing TTRPGs that may not have the time.
The barrier to entry to a lot of TTRPGs is just the amount of stuff, the prep, the setup, the amount of stuff you have to learn, and trying to bring more friends into that world is sometimes challenging because they're like, well, don't I have to spend like hours and hours making characters and reading books and learning all the rules? And my feeling, much like what they've done with Sunderfolk, is that as long as you know how to have fun and tell a good story, that should be it. That's all it is. As long as you're there to have a good time and share in this experience with your fellow players. So I was really, really taken by both the quality of the work that they'd already put together even before we started, the deck and the art and the deep love that they clearly had, not just for the tabletop community, but for the essence of how gaming brings people together. I grew up playing board games with my family and playing D&D with my brother. He's the one who introduced me to it. And there's a connection that you can have with people through game playing that doesn't necessarily come in other places. So yeah, I fell in love with it as soon as Chris sat and walked me through it, and I'm just so grateful to Spencer, so grateful that Dreamhaven was open to meeting with me and talking about this, and now we get to play.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it because a lot of my friends are, oh, we don't have a lot of time to invest, or we don't want to, oh, I come from this system, I don't want to learn a new system, or that kind of thing. So this is definitely bridging that gap.
Yeah. And much like it's not a video game, obviously, it's more of an interactive game night event thing. But much like in a lot of games in those systems, the story is also woven into the learning of the game. So you're not wasting any time. You're jumping right in and getting to the good stuff and learning how to do it together. It's a very intuitive system.
Oh, that's great. Now, how did your experience coming from like the TTRPG community, how did that impact working and being able to voice all these different characters for Sunderfolk?
I think it's not so much. I mean, yes, of course, it's my experience in the TTRPG community, but also my experience as a theater actor, a television actor, a voiceover actor. Your experience of telling stories is really what fed into that, I think, a little more. The few times that I have DM'd, because I am not a lifelong DM, I've only very recently started DMing. And one of my great joys is creating all of those NPCs and all their different voices and mannerisms and all of that for the players to entertain them as much as to connect them with these characters and make them a fully fleshed being. And so I think the work that I do as an actor has definitely played into that. And also just knowing that, much like you would want to do in a voiceover situation, if I was in a animated series and I was doing all the different voices, and it was only audio, if it was like a podcast, you would need to hear the difference between the characters to know who was talking. So being able to combine all of the different media that I work in one place for this, I think that's been really the blessing of being an actor in so many different lanes.
Yeah, no, that's going to be great. Especially, I've noticed there's like going to be a pretty hefty amount of NPCs, plus you're doing the narrative work on top of it.
Yes, and also trying to do it in a way that is good for all ages, because we're wanting families to come play this game. It's not just about us die-hard TTRPG players getting together and because we don't have time, we're going to do this and it's a new way to do it. We really want to incorporate um, storytelling and play for all ages. And so, in that sense, it's been very different than being a DM or a GM with my friends or with my peers, because I want it to be a beautiful story for kids, for teenagers, for young adults, for older adults, for everyone at the same time. So yeah, it's been such a joy, and there's so much fun to collaborate over there at Dreamhaven. It's the first time I feel like I've really gotten to have this much input into the input into so many of the different characters. I've definitely gotten to collaborate in previous games on one particular one, but to be able to say, well, okay, since this character is going to sound like this, I want to make sure that we do this with this character so they don't either sound the same or undercut each other, or this one doesn't sound stronger, or this one doesn't sound weaker, older, younger, all of that. It's been a wild ride.
When trying to do the different voices, were you trying to make them sound similar enough where they could come from like the same demographic or the same area in a story, or were there areas where they have to sound completely different because they're from some far off place?
So, given the fact that all of these are essentially anthropomorphized animals, right?
Mhm.
Not even fully anthropomorphized, but they're all animals. And there are a few groups that are other than the main Sunderfolk, than our protagonist village and all of that. Really, I just wanted there to be a variety, and also to show that not everyone from one far away different region sounds the same, because
Mhm.
not everyone from that region acts the same either. Not everyone has the same intentions. Not everyone has the same um good or bad moral compass. So really it was more about variety than necessarily like, okay, this group of characters has this accent and this group of characters has this accent. It's more about each individual one.
Wonderful. Now, when you're, as someone who's worked on the game, what's kind of like your favorite, NPC or your favorite area of the game that you really like?
um
If you can comment, of course.
No, I'm totally spacing on his name, which kills me. So promise me that you will fill it in when we do this, unless people are watching this, in which case my lack of short-term memory is showing. But there's this wonderful penguin that I love really much. He's not a penguin, he's a mole. He's a mole, and I really like him. He's kind of gruff, he's kind of tough, he's kind of awesome. I love that character. Sinclair. Sinclair is his name. Sinclair the mole. I really like him. He's just kind of a guy. He's one of my favorites. Um, I also really, really love, there is a penguin, a little girl penguin, Amaya, who's just very sweet. And then, yeah, I think there's a button mushroom that is probably the most fun I had of all of the characters. But the button mushroom is probably my favorite.
Well, I know when I'm going to be playing, those will be the ones I'm looking out for then to pay special attention to. Um, Now, how do you see Thunderfolk kind of impacting like the TTRPG community as well as video game players? Because players are going to be kind of meshing at this
Yeah.
point.
I hope all it does is just bridge the gap between the two. It's not either or in your life, it's both. All of the people that I know that play TTRPGs that are deep, deep, deep into it also love video games, and vice versa. There's so much to be enjoyed in both lanes. So if there are people who are like, I'm a little bit intimidated by playing video games because I'm just going to stick with the tabletop, maybe this is something that bridges the gap for them into story games, into story RPG games. They don't have to jump first all the way to first person shooters. They can have this nice little bridge. And same thing the other way around. I'm hoping that people who are used to playing video games and maybe not having that deeper storytelling experience might dip their toes a little bit into this genre and realize that it's just another way to connect with their friends, have a great time, play some cool games, and this particular game, some beautiful graphics, some absolutely stunning art and graphics by the developers.
Yeah, I right before this, I was watching the reveal trailer and I was like, this is storybook almost. It looks
It's
gorgeous.
gorgeous, right?
Yeah. So going with like the art design and stuff, how does the story fit in with like the art that we've already seen? Is it more of a storybook, or are there like kind of choose your
No,
own
there's
adventure?
definitely there are definitely action
Mhm.
sequences. If you think of it kind of like, I mean, it's not full cutscenes and gameplay scenes. Again, it's kind of an amalgam of all the games. There's nothing like it, so I don't specifically know what to compare it to. There are sections that will feel a little bit like a storybook that are similar to cutscenes that we see in certain video games. But then there are also sections that are just full on gameplay grid situations where you will be in battle or in an encounter of some kind. And that's when the teamwork of working with all of your friends and playing with all of your friends and everybody coming from a different background is going to be really fun and helpful.
If you're playing Sunderfolk, who's the hero or the class that you would be picking to play?
Oh, this was tough because I did do a little playing a few weeks ago when they did the whole kind of reveal and did a little uh, press junket, so to speak, of the game. Um, my I always want to play the sneaky, roguish character, but I fell in love with the berserker, the big bear. I loved the big bear. I got sucked in by the adorableness of this giant, big old white bear. And also I love playing tank in general. When I'm playing a video game, chances are my desire is to play tank, whether I'm good at it or not, or whether my fellow players want me to play tank is another thing. But yeah, I really that was my first experience, and I was very happy with it.
Great. I From watching it, I normally play tank because I tend to be someone who wants to go in and deal the damage, and then if I don't play tank, I always end up dying. So it makes me feel
Oh, well,
bad.
you need a better tank to protect you, is what you need. You need better tanks to protect you. But
So
also, I really love all of the different mechanics that they have for the spellcasters and for the different skills that different classes have in this game. So I'm definitely looking forward to experimenting a little bit more with some of the other characters.
that's great. I saw, yeah, the bard, I
Hmm.
believe, in the reveal trailer did some sort of spell or something, and then just the enemy went in an empty space and poof, he's gone. And I was like,
Yeah,
that is a
so much
great.
there's so much cool stuff. There's so much cool stuff that I haven't even seen. You know, like I said, we did that event a few weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, now that I know what this looks like, can I go back and revoice this character? Because I think this is a whole different vibe that I really want to make sure that we incorporate into the story. And there's so much. It's complex and beautiful in its imagery and in the things that you can do, and yet simple in the actual interface with which you get to do them.
Yeah, which again goes back to being able to just have your whole family kind of join and do it all together, which is
And
really
being able to
great.
put it down. It's not like, you know, a video game where you feel like, oh, I can't leave
Mhm.
right now. I'm in the middle of this and I'm going to lose where my place or whatever. Like if everybody's got to go, everybody's got to go and you move on.
Okay, and it has the ability to just pick it up next game night, and oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they're very interested in making this something that is more about, at least in my understanding, that is more about the communal experience of doing this together, and therefore eliminating the pain points that you might have in either video games or in tabletop role-playing games, eliminating as many of those pain points as possible, and as they have said, reinventing game night.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a huge thing because I know I'm already interested. People that I know that don't really play video games or TTRPGs are interested in it for their game night. So it's definitely has a lot of interest. But I wanted to move off Sunderfolk just a little bit to finish up. Um, I know that I just saw on your Instagram, Puppy Play is nominated for the Anthem Award.
Yeah, so the Puppy Roll and Daisy
Well,
Quest
I'm sorry.
both are finalists in the Anthem Awards this year, which is such a I'm so honored that these two projects that we did, specifically so honored that they're finalists for the Anthem Awards, because the Anthem Awards are honoring purpose-driven, mission-driven work that is trying to make a difference in the world. And so when we get a chance to create something that is super fun to watch and to play and to create, and we get to make a difference in the world, it's really lovely that that effort has been noticed. And so now we are finalists for the puppy roll in the fundraising and awareness categories, in the categories that encompass animal welfare and animal rights, which is sustainability, environment, and climate. And then they sequest in the awareness category for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I was so surprised and so excited. And now it's about the community stepping up and hopefully supporting us by voting for us for the Community Voice Awards.
Yeah, well, I know I'm going to be voting, but are you going to be working on any more projects in the future that are similar to those, where they have that impact, or charity
Absolutely.
kind of games?
100%. I I I have kind of a thing where if I'm going to make, specifically, especially if I'm producing it or creating something, if I'm going to make something, I want it to do more than just be this thing by itself. I want it to have some kind of impact, whether it's one-on-one on the people who are watching it, or whether it's on a bigger scale. The puppy roll, I'm very much hoping to be able to do again, because we had so much fun with it, and we did we raised so much awareness and so many funds, and we got one of our NPC dogs was adopted, and it was just such a joy to be able to do that with Petco Love and Petco Love Lost. And Basic Quest has been a labor of love from the beginning, largely because I feel like inclusion is not just about seeing yourself, but it's about inviting people into your culture. And what better way to do that than inviting them to play at your table inside a world that is represented by this game? So I'm definitely leaning more and more into doing projects like that through my production company, through Bad Auntie, and then also just with any friends who are interested in doing it.
Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you. I look forward to hearing all the voices in Sunderfolk. Great.
Wait till I tell you with that button mushroom.
I'll be keeping an eye, I promise.
All righty. Great to talk with you, Ashley.
Nice.